Thanks very much. Well, first of all, thanks for coming to this room to learn about our proposal. Our new fungicide, which we take pride in as a company. We are proud to speak of a truly big innovation in terms of disease management for different crops such as wheat, barley, soybean, and peanut. And soon, I will tell you throughout the presentation in other crops as well. So thanks for your presentation, for the introduction, and we're going to start with the presentation and explain what it is, what Iblon Pro is, and what we have to tell you today, and how we will make production systems more efficient by managing leaf diseases. To start with the product presentation, we thought it was valid to bring all 4 pillars represented by the brand. On the one hand, long-standing protection against disease. I will tell you why protection is long-standing or prolonged. This is what characterizes this product. Greener and healthier leaves for longer. This I will also explain. More energy in each plant. That's our 3rd pillar. And the last and most important pillar, everything that has to do with enhanced protection for the production potential. Now I will explain what Iblon Pro is and why this molecule is so innovative, and why is it that incorporation of a single acid within Iblon Pro makes it so strong in disease control. That's basically because of the fact that fungicides are today classified based on their mode of action. Iblon Pro in particular has one compound which is part of the carboxamides family, as you can see on screen. But there is a chemical characteristic to it which makes it different from other carboxamides available on the market today. This is what I will share with you now. That is, within Iblon Pro, I will speak in particular of one of its active ingredients, which is carboxamide. The carboxamide that we want to introduce and share with you today is isoflucipram. You can see it in the middle of the image. Why is it different from other carboxamides? And as we know, we have different chemical groups within them. Why is it that isoflucipram is a new chemical group today in this family and mode of action, which is inhibiting fungal growth? That's because the chemical structure of isoflucipram involves replacement of one hydrogen atom by this ring, which is actually a triangle. That triangle is formed by 3 carbon atoms. Apologies if I will go into details here, and then I will refer to more technical and detailed aspects. But precisely because it has 3 atoms of carbon together, in this fashion, we form a triangle, and the characteristic of this triangle is that the angle where those carbon atoms come together is small in comparison to what naturally occurs in the chemical field, and that's what gives isoflucipram a high power vis-a-vis other carboxamides. So the fact of having this group here, cyclopropyl, within isoflucipram makes it a very powerful active ingredient when it comes to combining it with other active ingredients in Iblon Pro to control leaf diseases. Let's move on to the next slide now. What we want to show you here is how isoflucipram acts throughout the infection process with any pathogen. Whatever the crop today, what a pathogen does, and irrespective of the pathogen as well, what it does is first germinate. Then after germination, it needs to enter the crop tissues, and therefore for that it needs to elongate the germ tube, enter stomas, grow inside plant tissues, and finally form spores, which is what we see here as the symptom. The rust spores or blotch in a wheat or barley crop, that's the symptom of disease being present, and that's because the fungi managed to complete this infection process. How are we going to attack this infection process? Well, by furthering or acting upon three axes, the three active ingredients in Iblon Pro isoflucipram, which is the new group of carboxymides, together with trifloxystrobin, which is the other active ingredient present in Iblon Pro as part of its composition, that will be acting at the beginning of the disease, at the onset of disease. What will this prevent? Well, this will prevent the pathogen from entering the plant tissue. The third active ingredient in Iblon Pro is proteoconazole. These two active ingredients, I estimate many of you are familiar with, and basically what it does, the last one, proteoconazole, what it does, and remember it's from the triazole family, and there's something specific to it. I will tell you why we call it triazole and why it is important to characterize it in this fashion now. But proteoconazole, which is the third active ingredient, will be acting later on throughout the fungal infection process. It's not having a preventative but rather a curative effect. Therefore, you can see there all the active ingredients, and we will be inhibiting fungal germination. And if the fungus has already entered the tissue, then proteoconazole will step in with a curative effect. Thus, we have perfected and further improved control throughout the fungal infection process in the various crops. Now we will share some pictures so that you can see in further detail. I think it's most timely to show under the microscope view what do we see when we see disease control at field level. In this case, these are pictures taken from Puccinia triticina, which causes orange rust in wheat crops. We may observe that if we do not apply a fungicide, spores will start germinating inside the plant tissues. What happens when we apply isoflucipram? 48 hours after application, what we normally see in the field, not under the microscope, but in the field, what happens in the field is precisely this. That is, spore germination is inhibited. We have the example in orange rust, and now we will see it in another disease. In this case is Rhizosporium secalis, and likewise this is the fungal spore which is beginning the infection process, and at the time of application of isoflucipram, germination is arrested, and so is the fungal entry into the plant tissue. That is how isoflucipram acts within Iblon Pro. Now then, you will wonder how we are going to use this product in the field, and it is here where it is timely to tell you basically about the three active ingredients: isoflucipram, proteoconazole, trifloxystrobin. They are a concentrated suspension or a suspension concentrate. The toxicological band today is number 3, the blue band, and we have registered it for wheat, barley, for management of diseases in soybean crops, peanut, and for 2027 we will register this same product but for use in corn and bean crops. What is the commercial presentation? 4 5-liter canisters, similar to other fungicides sold by Bayer. And I think it is important to mention this in this product presentation. Now then, when we started the talk, I told you there were 4 pillars, and that would explain them in detail as we moved along in the presentation. And I'm going to start with the first Iblon Pro pillar, that is long-standing or prolonged protection. I told you that I was going to explain why it was prolonged or long-standing and not just merely protection. It is long-standing or prolonged, and I will go into chemical details now, because of how isoflurane is distributed inside leaf tissues. In order to understand that, I need first to refer to 3 chemical characteristics of this active ingredient. Just like any active ingredient in any chemical, this can be characterized by these 3 properties that you're going to see on the left, on the top left of the screen. First, molecular weight, the log-co, and water solubility. We won't go into details. I mean, this is not a chemistry lesson, but it is important to understand where we are standing, if the molecular weight is high or low, if log-co is high or low, what it is telling me about the active ingredient, how it behaves, if it has more affinity to water or to lipids. Why I tell you this and why will I explain this? Because that will help us understand what you see on the images. Let's go to the first chemical feature, which is molecular weight. You are looking at 399, the figure there. That weight is high or low? Chemically speaking, it is a high molecular weight. It's a heavy molecule. The second characteristic, log-co, or P logarithm, as it is sometimes called, is the ratio between solubility of isoflurane in octanol, which is a chemical molecule very similar to the lipid composition found in the biota. That is why we speak of isoflurane concentration in octanol over isoflurane concentration in water. The value is high. The log-co is 4. And what does it mean? Well, today isoflurane has more affinity with lipids vis-a-vis water. It's more lipidic rather than hydrophilic. High molecular weight, lipidic, and lastly, water solubility. It's 1.8 milligrams per liter. It's a very low value. A high value, to give you an idea, is, for example, in the case of salt, which has a water of 400 milligrams. Here we're speaking of 1.8 milligrams per liter. So let's go back. If we have high molecular weight, high log-co, and high water solubility, as a result, the molecule inside plant tissues will move slowly. How will this slow movement of isoflurane translate? Let's look at the pictures. Let's see what happens on day 3, 14 days, and I will compare isoflurane against proteoconazole. The reference scale is the one that you see on the right, where you see the meaning of the different colors. If I am in the range of bluish and light blue colors, the product systems is lower. If I go to the orange, red range of colors, the systems will be faster. Why concentrate on proteoconazole and isoflurane 14 days after application? Because these are 2 of the active ingredients that are a part of Iblon Pro. And what do we achieve with this? Remember that the third active ingredient is trifloxystrobin. Remember that we have the range of blue and light blue. That means that isoflurane moved slowly and in a balanced fashion inside plant tissues, unlike what proteoconazole does today, which moves faster. And basically, what will this allow us to achieve? Well, with the 2 active ingredients, the system will be very balanced. Whereas one moves slower, the other one will move faster, having a curative effect on the plant. And in this case, isoflucipram will be having a preventative effect more slowly, and hence the name of this pillar throughout time, in a prolonged fashion throughout time. Hence, one of the characteristics of this product, which we are seeing on the field in all crops, which is its improved control effect throughout time to protect against the different diseases I'm going to mention later. It is a balanced effect in plant tissue. I will now speak about the second pillar, greener and healthier leaves for longer. In order to represent this pillar, there's data analysis information that underpins this statement, and which I'm going to speak about now. But I thought it was more valid and interesting to show you what we are seeing on the field today. Basically, we see greener, healthier leaves for a longer period. You see the comparison between the two pictures. This is wheat crops. We have the stand or the check stand, and next to it the plants treated with Iblon Pro. We can see it in the next image, also in wheat crops on this occasion in the city of Balcarce. Notice the difference between the check stand and this green effect in the plants treated with Iblon Pro. Also, 42 days after application, this is when these pictures were taken. Notice in this case it is a wheat crop. See the check stand with some stains, blotches, and when the plant was treated with a triple mix with carboxamide, it will be better compared to the untreated check stand, but see the significant improvement obtained with Iblon Pro.
Next slide, and we'll go to barley. 34 days after application, Iblon Pro effect is quite clear, and I will share hard data with you rather than pictures about disease control. This is soybean, 350 cubic centimeters. We see that Iblon Pro provides outstanding control. These pictures were taken on two locations, General Paz and Vidan, in the province of Santa Fe. I will conclude with peanut, which is the latest crop we have recorded. As I've already said, corn and bean is something we'll focus on in 2027. Here we see the same thing we saw with wheat and barley. The effect is really impressive in the field. And here you can see the first place, the check stand. You can see that the disease is present quite extensively. How we see the product, and then a leading mix with carboxamide, where you can already see the disease is present. Excellent control and performance for this disease in corn. And now, almost getting to the end of the crop cycle, you can see that the peanut is different on the check stand, and you can see the plot with Iblon Pro and the leading product with carboxamide. Basically, what we see here is a high impact on yield, and I will share this information with you now. The third pillar, which is also very important because it's related to that green effect, is related to the energy each plant has. And you may wonder how you measure whether a plant has more or less energy, or how we can realize that this third pillar is present from a practical standpoint. In order to see the larger energy volume in each plant, we have to talk about the physiologic effect of isoflucipram. And by physiologic effect, I'm leaving disease control aspect aside. I'm only talking about an impact that the molecule naturally has on any crop. In order to explain this, I have brought information collected by crop science. This is global information that will explain in more detail so that you understand what more energy in each plant means. Specifically, we're going to focus on the first graph and what that orange bar means. Having larger chlorophyll content in the leaves is telling us precisely that there is a physiologic effect and a green effect, and we can see this in the field. So we can measure the larger chlorophyll content in leaves treated with isoflucipram. We have a check stand that is uncontrolled. Then we have our treatment, which in this case is isoflucipram plus proteconazole. I'm missing the trifloxystrobin that is also present in Iblon Pro. But the graph is showing the effect of carboxamide only. How can I tell what the effect of carboxamide is? Well, I need to have a third treatment, which is the one you can see on the screen. What we did was keeping proteconazole concentration. So here and there, I have the same amount. But what have we changed? Carboxamide volume, carboxamide content. Obviously, the mode of action is the same. It's inhibiting that effect, but it's another carboxamide. So in order to summarize this graph, we are able to see that there is a 5% increase in chlorophyll in the leaves of plants treated with isoflucipram. This shows the physiologic impact of this agent on plants. We've also measured this on wheat, and we've measured the different ways it affects the crops. At the global Bayer Corporation level, we have measured what happens with an untreated check stand, a blank formulation. What does this formulation do? It has the full formulation present in isoflucipram, except for the active ingredients. So I'm seeing the same impact of treatment number 3, but without isoflucipram. And why am I explaining this? Because today we're seeing on wheat and barley, as well as in soybean and peanut, very good yield results with Iblon Pro. And this is one of the ways in which we can explain that beyond disease control, we're contributing to yield. And the cause is a physiologic cause. That active ingredient produces more tassels, more grain, and an increased weight of grains, in this case specifically in wheat. This is a trial carried out at a greenhouse, and this is why we have been able to get thorough research information. Now we will see detailed information, and this is the detailed information provided by these 3 graphs. The fourth pillar, and the most important one for productive systems. But in order to reach this fourth pillar, we need to have the other 3 previously, without a long-acting effect, and a product that is very well positioned for pathogen protection, because we have 3 modes of action and 3 sites of action. Without this, we won't be able to have this impact on yield. We did not say this at the beginning, but if you have any questions, please keep your questions until the very end. I will shortly finish my presentation, and if you have any questions, we can answer those questions after the presentation. So, how are we doing today in terms of leaf diseases control? I will tell you how we're doing in terms of leaf diseases control in some crops. I will start with wheat. And wheat specifically, if you're sitting at the back, you may not be able to read this, but every column is a different disease where we have different diseases that affect wheat control. Target spot, leaf blot, tan spot, and the last pillar of a productive system, that is yield. We thought this was the clearest way to show the results of the 2019-2023 seasons. When the product was in development, that means that we were in a research stage trying to check the efficacy of the product as well as its persistence. And as time goes by and as we meet different internal standards and as Iblon Pro makes progress, we organize a program so as to offer a management program. This happens during the last 2 years of product development. In summary, what we can see here with Iblon Pro is the 3rd line. First, we have our internal standard. We have tan spot in the first column. We need internal standard to have a product that is really an innovation that meets our requirements, that protects us against diseases, that increases yield, that is sustainable in time. And this is what Iblon Pro offers. Iblon Pro has 4 white crosses, but also the first impact, the darker green color, which means that it is statistically different from other treatments. This allows me to say I am reaching an excellent performance with these wheat diseases. Excellent control of tan spot as well as rust. Now going to barley, you can see that again we have the largest number of crosses, we have the darker green, and it's important to emphasize how much we are controlling net blotch today. To close and to summarize the information regarding soybean, Iblon Pro is on the 2nd line, and today it is a product that stands out in the control of leaf blot, Asian rust, and the good control of brown spot. Today, brown spot is becoming a very important disease in soybean, so we should point out that our product offers quite a good control efficiency. I should also point out something that I said at the beginning. There are 2 modes of action and 3 action sites. Why 2 modes of action? Because trifloxystrobin and carboxamide will inhibit the fungi respiration. It acts at the beginning without allowing the fungi to get into the plant. Proteconazole is part of a different mode of action and a different action site. Same thing that trifloxystrobin and carboxamide does. So this ingredient will be acting as a fungicide here. So carboxamide and trifloxystrobin both will inhibit fungal respiration, but in two different sites. Proteconazole has a different mode of action and a different action site. And this is why I'm speaking of 3 action sites and a very peculiar and important aspect. Proteconazole is part of the triazole family, but just like what we see with isoflucipram, which I said has a different chemical structure, that different chemical structure provides a different fitting mode. Isoflucipram will bind to the action site in a way that is different from the other carboxamides. With proteconazole, we see the same thing. It has a binding way. It binds to the action site in a different way. And why am I pointing this out? Because this combination makes it a perfect product to generate this efficiency in disease control and this efficiency on yield increase, and especially it is long-acting. In this way, I'm making sure that I have a sustainable leaf disease control system. I'm getting closer to the end. This is about yield, and basically this graph shows the impact. It's information taken from Bayer globally, and we will later see information about Argentina. But I've brought this because we are talking about 5,322 ends or comparison points where we were able to detect the impact of isoflucipram on yield as compared to leading products with carboxamides. So we are comparing Iblon Pro with other commercial products that also include the same families included in Iblon Pro. Among these 5,322 points, we have a 2.2% benefit as compared to the main commercial products, and the success rate is above 80%. This means that out of 100 cases, in 80 cases, we got this increased yield with Iblon Pro. And now let's see local information. I will start with wheat, the graph on the left, and you can see that in the case of wheat, we got almost 800 kilos difference as compared to untreated stands. And obviously, we have to compare our results with the main alternatives available in the market from leading brands that include carboxamide in their composition. And you can see that the difference is 80 kilos. In this data pool in wheat, it's a little bit above that 2.2% that we saw at a global level. If we go to barley, we see a similar trend, 526 kilos with untreated check stands, and we see the difference with the 3 leading products with carboxamide available in the market. Now let's go to soybean. And I will show to you the impact on yield in 2 different ways. First, wheat and barley, differences with untreated stands, 237 kilos. Differences as compared to the leading carboxamide product in the market, almost 40 kilos. But there is an impact that is related to the wind gate. I'd like to know whether this product will really have a better performance or the same performance, or will have a worse performance as compared to other carboxamide containing leading products. And this is why we are showing the second graph to you. This is for soybean, but we have the same information for the other crops. Basically, here you will see two lines that summarize yield or environmental rate. And you can see those two regression lines. The green line shows the 350 cubic centimeters of Iblon Pro. The brown line shows the leading standard with carboxamide. And what we can see on this database is that with Iblon Pro, we always have a superior trend in terms of yield, considering the different environmental indexes. In soybean, with 1,800, 2,000, 2,200 kilos up to 4,000 and 4,600 kilos, we can see that the results have continuously been good with Iblon 350 cubic centimeters. This database is still being updated. If we meet again in the future, I will be able to share more information with you. Finally, peanut. I told you that the impact on yield was very large. 1,745 kilos untreated, 864 kilos with the leading carboxamide-containing product. And to conclude, I'd like to share with you the solutions portfolio we have. This is a portfolio for barley, wheat. I focused on the launch of Iblon Pro, but we have other options for leaf disease management, like Krypton and Krypton X Pro. Today we have three very good products that, if correctly positioned, can help us to achieve excellent control, large impact on yield in wheat and barley. There are other products that were launched a short time ago, for example, those products for seed treatment, like Essential, and other products should be pointed out. And we also have the bio portfolio, herbicides, fungicide. This is why you're seeing here Martino Plus as a herbicide. This is soybean. The rationale is the same. There's been a renovation and updating in seed crop. We have Accelerant Basic and Accelerant Suck Essential. And finally, we have our fungicide portfolio with the Krypton and Iblon Pro brothers. And finally, soybean, where we have, well, this is peanut, and we have peanut smut control through three products that we have to face smut in peanut. And I have only 9 seconds left to conclude my presentation, so I will close my presentation going back to the 4 pillars that Iblon Pro offers. Long-acting protection because of its consistent and long-acting distribution. This is what I explained in connection with wheat leaves. Healthier and greener leaves for longer time. We talked about the efficacy and disease control, more energy in every plant. We talked about the effect in terms of chlorophyll. And finally, larger productive potential, and this is what we mentioned in our last few slides. Well, this is it. I will now answer any questions you may have. I think we have time, maybe 5 minutes. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, but they're not using the mic, so we cannot hear the question. The interpreters apologize, but we're not hearing the question. So 800 cubic centimeters. Well, I can summarize your question. The Iblon dose for peanut is 800 cubic centimeters. With 800 cubic centimeters, you have a larger concentration of proteoconazole, a new carboxamide that is totally innovative in smut control. And in terms of management, we are recommending 2 applications separated with a multi-site. And my other question is the best performance of carboxamide. Can you tell me how long the protection time would be? Would you say 21 days or maybe 28? Do you think we could stretch all the way until 28, depending on the year, projection, and the smut? It's a very complicated question because we have not measured this so that I can tell you exactly we have 6, 7, or 8 more days of residual result. But we're using that window from 5 to 7 days of residual value, the residual effect. We talked about persistence. Well, thank you, everyone, and I'll be around in case you have any other questions.